Everybody know me. If you don't know me, I'm Jason Morgan. We don't have a good mic, so we're gonna talk loud. This is my good friend Andrew Stossberg. He's an expert handicapper. And he's gonna be my wise guy here.
Expert in quotes.
While he's getting that up there, just a couple of storylines for this year. The last 4 years have been anything but normal with the Derby. You go back to 2019, we had maximum security, almost wrecked the entire field. Following year, we had a pandemic. I'll come to you in just a second. Following year, we had a pandemic and a Derby in September. 2021, we had a Baffert winner that was disqualified several months later. And then last year, we had the fastest pace we've probably ever seen and had Rich Strike win at the second longest odds ever. So hoping this year will be a little bit normal. Couple things watching on TV. If you go out there, Churchill got a lot of construction going on. There's a temporary paddock. There's a brand new first turn facility. You'll probably see a lot on TV. Storyline about Baffert is he's still not here. He's still under suspension, but trainers, Todd Fletcher and Brad Cox are very prominent. They actually have 7 combined horses in the field, 1/3 of the total. We got Japanese horses that are getting buzzed. So a lot of unique things going on this year that kind of make it an interesting Derby. Right now, they're passing out some sheets for a little contest of Mark is spearheading for us. It's a $10 entry fee. I'm gonna let him stand up and tell you just a little bit about it real fast.
Explain how this works. A lot of you might. All right, so the way this works, this is the official entry form, okay? And all you have to do is write your name right here and give me $10 at the end of this meeting. You'll put your 3 picks in no particular order here, 1, 2, 3. The way this works is the actual finish, you're gonna get basically a virtual $2 across the board bet on each of your entries, okay? And we'll add up the payouts, and the person with the highest payout will be the winner of the contest. Understand how that works? 70% the first, 20% the second, third. So here's the example. If you pick the number 8 horse, or say the number 10 horse, and he finished second, and your $2 wager paid $12.40 to place and $6.80. You add all that up, and that's your winning total. So that's how we'll determine the winner. Okay, got it? Any questions?
Do we pick the number or the name?
Go with the numbers. Post position number.
Hey, Mike Simpson better explain this.
You can write the name.
Wow. So let me shut on that. See what happens.
All right, well, let's get started. We're gonna go through the field. And luckily this year, they've got the draw. In the past few years, they've been doing a draw like we were in during this lunch and looking at our phone, trying to figure out who got what. So we have what you're seeing here is the actual post position draw. Number 1 is Hit Show. This is a horse that had a lot of promise, racing in the New York circuit. Had a great race at the Withers, was the big favorite in the Wood Memorial, and made a decent move, but he got sandwiched between a couple of horses, and he got beat by a 59-1 shot Lord Miles. So I kind of liked Hit Show just a little bit as a long shot, but being in the one hole, I'm probably going to downgrade him because of post. See what Andrew says.
Well, this is, Jason mentioned, this is one of Brad Cox's, I believe, 3 horses he has, or see 3 or 4. He's 4. Fletcher has 3. Thank you. So one of Cox's 4 horses. Notably, he's drawn next to a stablemate in the 2 to verify. The one, as Jason mentions, traditionally not a good place to be. However, I think it was last year they refined the starting gate, so it's not quite as jammed up on the rail barrier. I also think the Hit Show is not going to blaze out too quickly. I think he can tuck in behind the number 2 verifying. So my point to all that is this could be the type of horse that just sort of lopes around the inside rail and then real late, passes tiring horses and maybe has some gas in the tank and can get up for third or fourth place at a call. So I'll be using him maybe for a show event, but if you play a superfecta or a trifecta event, I think he's worth including at the bottom.
He does have a good pedigree, and this is the second start off a long layoff if you like that angle. So moving on to the next horse. This is another Brad Cox horse. This is Verifying, ridden by local top jockey Tyler Gaffleone, who's a personal favorite of mine. He basically had the Bluegrass won until Tappet Trice came roaring from behind and nipped him. He is going to be one of the 3 or 4 horses that are in the first flight, so you will hear his name. At least you should, according to pace projections. You'll hear his name quite a bit throughout the race because he'll be on or near the front end. I like him a little bit. I do not think he's a win candidate. I think he's reached the end of his pedigree. And actually his only wins are in a maiden race and an optional claiming race. So I question his overall class.
I concur with Jason. I think unless this race has such a slow pace and there's not a lot of front end speed, then I suppose Verifying could just circle the track and at an easy pace. But short of that scenario, kind of the opposite of what happened last year where there were a bunch of jackrabbits. I don't see Verify as a hit the board contender this year.
All right, number 3 is Two Phils. This is from some Chicago connections. Larry Ravelli is the trainer. He's a very inexperienced in terms of Derby jockey on him. A very interesting horse, and probably the horse in the field that I really don't know what to do with. He has the fastest buyer speed figure and Brisnet speed figure, which is what this past performance is Brisnet in their last race. There's an asterisk there because that last race was at Turfway on synthetic. So I sort of put a squiggly line through that personally, and I want to look at what has he done on a dirt track. And quite frankly, his numbers on the dirt are mid-tier at best. I'm not backing him. I know there's other people out there. He looks good on the track, other people that like him, but he's not one of my favorites.
What about the jockey?
His name's Jared Loveberry. I don't know if he's ever ridden in the Derby or not. Journeyman, as they would say.
So he is definitely the proverbial wild card horse. He has, Jason talked about speed figures. There's a type of speed figure called the Ragozin sheets or the Thoroughgraph. He also has the fastest speed figure from those two service publications. He has a lot of foundation, and in an interview with the jockey Loveberry early on, you'll see at the bottom, he ran sprints. You see a 5 furlong at the bottom, 6 furlong, 6 furlong. And they figured out that Loveberry insisted, it's like, this horse wants to go longer, wants the distance. And his recent races, his last 4 races reflect that he likes the distance. So, I think you need to include this horse as part of your superfecta ticket if you play it. I'm not sure he's a win candidate. I won't be stunned if he wins, but include him on the bottom.
I will. All right, you want to scroll up a little bit? Yeah, keep going until you get that confidence game screen. Confidence game number 4. This is from the interesting ownership group of Don't Tell My Wife Stables. This horse has a very interesting past performance line. You'll notice, if you can see up there, his last race was in February. It was a good race. He won the Rebel down at Oaklawn in Arkansas. But no one has won the Derby off such a long 8+ week layoff, going back many decades and decades. He's also never run at 1 1/8, which is what your typical stepping stone prep is going into the Derby. He's also had gaps in his training. The positives are, I think he's going to be very prominent in the pace. I don't think there's a lot of speed horses that want the lead. I think he will have the lead when they go around the clubhouse turn. How long he can hang on is debatable, but he does have some good distance pedigree. Drake's Bernardini is his dam sire. So this one's a wild card to me. Like Two Fills, but I like him a little bit better than Two Fills, just in case this layoff has served him well and he comes in fresh and can lead him a long way.
Yeah, my assessment of no confidence game is just that. I noticed last win at the end of February came over a sloppy track in the Red Bull. I view that as a fluke. You go 2 races back, he was beaten by Two Fills. And just the long layoff and the gaps in training give me no confidence in this horse. He will not be on the terrace.
All right, the next horse is the number 5, Tap It Trice. This is your second favorite. This is the first of 3 Todd Pletcher horses in the race. He's a very impressive winner of the Bluegrass Stakes at Keeneland, ridden by one of the probably 3 best jockeys in the U.S. right now, Louis Saez. He's undefeated this year at 3. I would, from a negative standpoint, I would say his competition up until the Bluegrass was pretty weak down at Tampa Bay. And the other is more of a stylistic weakness. He usually drops back in his races. You know, everybody loves the closer. That's great in an 8 or 9 horse field, but in a 20 horse field, he's going to have a lot of work to do. You probably have to take the overland route and circle wide. When you go wide in the Derby, instead of being 4 or 5 wide, you could be 7 or 8 wide, which it's like running in a track meet. And if you're in lane 8, you're going to run a lot further around the turn. So I love the horse from a speed perspective. You'll see at the very end of this, he's actually my top pick, but it's actually between he and another horse that I'm teetering on. He's just going to have to navigate traffic.
So I mean, look, the Bluegrass was a thrilling race for those of you who watch. It was a great stretch duel between him and Verifine. I've followed Verifine, and I'm not a fan of that horse. And it took every ounce of muster for Tap It Trice to put Verifine away. He's a good horse. He belongs, but I don't have him as a win candidate on my ticket.
All right, the next horse there is number 6, Kings Barnes. Kings Barnes is the Louisiana Derby winner. It's another Todd Pletcher, another good pedigree horse, Uncle Mo out of a Tap It mare. Tap It is known as a distant sire, and you'll see his name as a sire, a dam sire through quite a bit of these runners. He is undefeated, but he's got the Apollo curse. That is, he did not race at age 2. There's only been one horse since 1882 to win the Derby without 2 starts or without starts at 2, and that is Justify. I don't think that he's Justify. Justify had huge numbers coming in. Everybody knew he was going to be great. This one, you're going to take a flyer on because he's only shown that he's going to win on the front, and his fractions, meaning the early part of the race in the Louisiana Derby, were pretty slow. And there's other horses that are going to get the lead. And so you take a lightly raced horse, and he's going to face a lot of things he's never faced. And most importantly is he's going to be facing hind ends for the first time early in the race. And we don't know if he can pass a horse. We don't know if he can handle traffic. And it's probably too much to ask at this stage in his career. Going to be a good horse, but probably not a win or place candidate for me. He could get out there and hang on, but
why do you think he has such good odds?
He's never lost a race.
he's undefeated. 12-1. That's value if you like him. I wouldn't argue with you if you wanted to take a stand and say, I think he can get the lead and lead him a long way. I just think there's a few others that are faster out of the gate. He's going to experience things that he's not before.
Yeah, I'll just add, I'm not a fan of his competition. He beat Disarm and JC's Road. We haven't talked about JC's Road yet, but I'm not a fan of those horses to hit the win board. You'll notice a lot of jockey merry-go-round races as well. And four races. It's gonna have 4 different jockeys. Two of the really good ones, Saez, who Jason just correctly complimented, and then Flavia Pratt, who we'll talk later, both opted for other horses. And to me, that's telling as well.
All right, the next horse is Reincarnate. This was, I think, the one horse in the field that used to be with Baffert. And the trend line with, because he had horses early in the season, like January and February, that were aimed for the Derby, but because he's suspended, he had to give those horses to other trainers. I think this is the only horse that he sort of dispersed that made the Derby. He had a lot of promise going into the Rebel and the Arkansas Derby. He's 100% of the money, but I think it's against suspect competition. And to me, every time he gets in position to do something, he just kind of sits there. He hangs, as they call it. I mean, he's got Johnny V on him, who's I think won 4 derbies if you include the Dina Spirit one. So probably the best, most proven Derby jockey in the field. It would, I mean, he could get 4th, but he's more likely to finish in the very middle of the pack.
Just for the record, I do not include Medicated Spirit as one of Johnny V's 4 wins.
I sent you.
He's still a great jockey. But notwithstanding Johnny V's presence, Johnny V usually likes to ride his horses up front to get them forwardly placed, so that there will be a tactical advantage. However, I think there's enough speed this year up front where a horse like Reincarnate won't quote steal the race as a result of slow fractions. And unless that scenario happens, I don't see Reincarnate as a win candidate, or probably not hitting the board.
All right, number 8 is Mage, another lightly raced horse, like King's Barn did not race in age 2. So that's a big strike against him. A couple of really good things I do like about this. If you are a horse geek and you watch replays of races, I encourage you to go back and watch the Florida Derby. He made what I consider to be the best move of any horse in the Derby prep season on the turn of the Florida Derby. He was in last place. He flew by the entire field and was almost home free until the horse named Forte, the favorite, who's the classiest horse in the field, ran him down late. I think he has a huge license to improve. He's 15-1 on morning line. He has my personal all-time favorite jockey, Javier Castellano. I'm going to bet this horse. I think he's a great horse to play across the board as a longer shot. Pedigree is a little unproven, but he gave Forte all he wants. And if Forte's going to be 3-1, I mean, he lost by a length, and you're going to get 15-20-1, I think, on Saturday.
Yeah, so Jason and I are actually in a horse geek racing contest, if you will, where we watch all of these 3-year-old races heading into the Derby. And I had Mage that day. So Mage just made this, as Trevor Dedman would say, the scintillating move in the Florida Derby, and looked like he had it won until Forte also shot up there and got him right at the end. Jason mentioned the curse of Apollo earlier, and that would apply to Mage in terms of his chances to win. So I think this horse is a contender, and I would go with Jason's wagering strategy and across the board. I don't know that he wins because of the Apollo curse, but could see him as a legit candidate to hit the board.
Was he tiring or was he?
No, he kind of, that's a great question. Did he tire, or was Forte just better? And the fractions indicated that, they were there. I believe there was some controversy on what the actual fractions were in the Florida Derby at the end. And I don't know if he flattened or not. That's a great question. Or Forte was just better. But he has tactical speed for sure, which is a huge asset in the Derby to stay out of traffic.
So you're saying if Forte gets blocked in, he's probably winning.
It very possible. Especially if they go fast up front. This horse likes to sit back to some degree, and you know, if he times his move, he's got a great jockey. Jason alluded to Castellano on boards. So, yes.
I'll give you two other things on Mage. One positive, one negative. Positively, if you look at his speed figures up there and you see the very first race back in January, his speed figures 101. Using these set of speed figures, his first race speed figure is the best, meaning he was fast out of the box. He didn't progress his way. I mean, he's been fast all along, which tells me his ceiling might be a little higher than some of these. The one big drawback, which is going to put him in probably a traffic disadvantage, is he's terrible out of the gate. I mean, he's hit the gate, he's been bumped. So who knows what will happen with the gates open. So
The speed figures declined as the race went on, right? He went from 105 to.
yeah, I mean, they're within first and last are within 2 points. So yeah. Anyway, the next one is Skinner. About halfway through the field, so I think we're doing pretty good on time. Skinner is he is from John Sheriff's as the trainer. You may remember Giacomo. This horse is getting a lot of comparisons to Giacomo. You remember he lit up the tote board 12, 13 years ago. In that he raced in California. He kept kind of coming in second, third, second, never really had the big win. And then all of a sudden, when a few things went his way in the Derby, he was right there. He's got a really good late pace figures. If you look at this sheet, and I can email this to you, anybody, but if you see the LP figure right below your cursor there, anything above 100 is considered good. He's consistently running basically 100 or better late pace figures. He hasn't really closed the door to win a big one yet, but some people feel that he's got it in him, and with a pretty decent pedigree. He's out of Curlin, which is a former Breeders' Cup Classic winner, and placed. I think he won the Preakness, didn't he? Anyway, good pedigree. And good trainer, bringing in one that may be under the radar. I think this is one, if you're into the gimmicks, trifectas and superfectas, definitely want to include him on the bottom.
Skinner's one of my top 2 win candidates. I love that the Giacomo comparison is good. I'm a fan. I think Juan Hernandez is one of the top West Coast jockeys, so good jock on board. John Sheriffs thinks this horse can run all day, so the distance should be a problem. And on the Rags End and Thoroughgraph speed figures, his speed figure from those services definitely make him a win candidate. So the downside is just, will he hit some traffic trouble? That's always a possibility, but he's an absolute win candidate for my book.
All right, number 10 is Practical Move. This is the horse that I actually bet on in the future wagers back in February and March. I really like this horse. He's proven to be kind of the West Coast best. He's won 3 straight graded stakes. He won the Santa Anita Derby. The knock on him is his pedigree. Practical Joke is not proven yet to be a classic sire, although his father into Mischief has. So he's out of a Fleet Alex mare and who won Preakness and Belmont. So he may have enough pedigree to prove the naysayers wrong. What I see in this horse is a horse that has a pretty big pace advantage over a lot of the field. He's proven that he can run fast early and late. He's got good late pace figures. He's also got good early and mid race figures. I think about the only knock against this horse is his pedigree. His Thoroughgraph, which is another speed rating I use, it went down last race, and so that's feeding into maybe he's slowing down as the races get longer. I just think this horse, kind of with verifying, you're going to hear his name prominent throughout the race. I think it's a very good possibility that he could be in the lead when they turn for home. After that, we'll see how good he is. He will be prominent in all of my tickets.
Yeah, so I put a lot of weight onto the big negative Jason just described, which is I don't think this horse wants to go a mile and a quarter. I've always viewed Practical Joke, his daddy, as a horse who was best in a mile to a mile 16, mile and eighth range. His speed figures have plateaued since the end of last year, which again hints toward that suggestion that maybe he doesn't want to run much past a mile, mile 16th, mile and eighth. So I think Jason nailed it. I could see him be right there in the top of the stretch. My prediction is that he fades when they get to the quarter. But good luck in your future bets.
Disarm is number 11. Steve Asmussen, very well-known trainer. I think he's the all-time leading trainer in the United States in terms of wins, but he has never won the Derby. He's coming in with a very stoutly bred colt, gun runner out of Cabot as the bloodlines. They've been reaching, I think, to get this horse into the Derby. He ran a decent second to King's Barn coming from behind in the Louisiana Derby. He did not have enough points to get in, so they ran him 3 weeks ago in the Lexington Stakes, which is, only a grade 3, kind of the last ditch effort to get in. And he was only third in that race, which got him enough points to get in. But I mean, he lost that race by 4.5 lengths. There's a lot of people at the track, around the track, talking about him. It's a good looking horse. It's training well. I'm not buying it. I don't see him anywhere in the top, even in the top 10.
Agree. I was crushed. One of my 2 picks last year was Epicenter, and I really wanted to see Asmussen finally win one. He didn't, and he's not going to win one this year.
Number 12 is Jason's Road. About the only positive thing I can say about him, I have many nicknames, and Jace is one of them. If it rains, he'll finish last, because in 2 races he's run in the rain, he's lost by a combined 48 lengths. So I mean, they might even scratch him if it rains. He's that bad.
Wow.
I think he's in here actually to be a rabbit and he is going to be forwardly placed. And a rabbit, I mean, Cox's big horse is Angel of Empire, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. I think this horse is going to go towards the front and try to keep that pace lively to help Angel of Empire come from behind.
Well, I love a good conspiracy theory, and I can't drink enough of that Kool-Aid. 1,000%. I'll have Jason's Road in hat on. He will be in or on or near the lead early on to juice up that pace for Angel of Empire. So I concur.
Sun Thunder. This is another long shot. Kenny McPeak, local connection. Brian Hernandez, another local jockey. They certainly know Churchill, but they're not on the right horse. I think they're putting blinkers on. You don't like to see equipment changes going into a big race. So I don't like that. I don't like that he's lost his last 2 races by over 14 lengths. He's just, to me, he's a plotter. He may pass a few tied horses late and finish 12th.
Yeah, if you just look on the right of his line, and it's like a who's who of Derby entrants. Tappett's Rights, Verifying, King's Ransom, whoever that is, Disarm, Jason's Road, Angel of Empire, Phil. I mean, it's a who's who of who's taking turns to beat. He's like the jobber in the old professional wrestling, the Jerry Lawler or somebody. Every week. This is the speedy tall trees of Churchill Downs this Saturday. Won't be on my ticket.
All right, number 14, I think is the 3rd choice. That's Angel of Empire. This is Brad Cox, number 1. Super impressive Arkansas Derby winner. He was laying back behind 3 or 4 lengths early, shot to the lead, and improved his position. So he ended up winning going away by over 4 lengths. And he did beat a crazy long shot that somehow he bet on in that race. But that's another story for another day. Flavian Pratt
rode Kings Barnes to victory in the Louisiana Derby, and Pratt, which is probably one of the 3 or 4 best jockeys in the country, chose Angel of Empire. I think that's a key angle there. There's a lot to like about this horse. He will be in a lot of my tickets. In 5 dirt starts, he's got 4 wins and a runner-up.
It's got a good name too.
So I have a huge Derby man crush on Flavian or Flavian is on Prot, and he is exceptional jockey, particularly in the Derby. I think in 4 of his last 5, he has a couple of seconds, a third, and a 5th, maybe something like that. He's the most patient rider on the circuit and just can wait and wait, versatile. And when you're talking about a race that's a circus with 20 animals in there, Pratt's exceptional. So on top of that, as Jason alluded to, he's on a good horse. Angel of Empire is a legit win contender. He's my 3rd or 4th choice, only because I question the horses that he's beaten. But you know, at 8-1, and the other pluses and Brad Cox training, he's a legit win contender.
Yeah, I think if you're doing simple exacta boxes and trap boxes, you include this horse for sure. Number 15 is the favorite. This is the champ, as they say. He's a juvenile, Breeders' Cup juvenile winner. He's the Eclipse winner, is the best 2-year-old in the country. Forte oozes class, as they say in the horse racing world. He has 4 grade 1 wins. 4. The rest of the field has 4 combined. Okay, so think about that for a minute. He is relentless in the stretch. I think he's a very deserving favorite. You know, he's got Fletcher, he's got Irad Ortiz on him. What's not to like? The only thing I would say is I don't agree with this necessarily because he only had 2 starts this year. Some people say he's already peaked. His thoroughbred figure did go down last race, but I mean, all of his other speed figures and everything you could say about this horse are at the top of the charts. I think he is going to have a lot to say about this race. There are other candidates to win that offer more value, but I think he's the most likely horse on paper to finish in the top 3. So you have to include him in every bet that you make.
Jason kind of stole my thunder with that last comment. Like if you are a cliff jumper, so to speak, like this is a horse, just put a show bet on this one. And that's probably maybe the most sensible wager you do all day. I will be stunned. Forte's not in the top 5. The question is, you know, how high in the top 5 will he be? I watched a lot of his races. I was a big fan of a horse called Loggins who ran at Keeneland in the fall, and they had an incredible stretch duel that I was just waiting for Loggins to win. And Forte was just like, he's classy, but he has this Rocky Balboa fight style. He is a gritty, tough fighting horse. Having said that, I do share that concern Jason mentioned about if he's peaked already. I tend to think he has, but a lot of people would come back and say, well, Andrew, Todd Pletcher's training this horse. He knows how to win derbies. They have a point system to get into the Derby. So, you know, it's certainly arguable to say for the Florida Derby, for example, the horse wasn't, quote, cranked up, because if he got 2nd or 3rd, he was still going to be in the Derby. And it's more of a keep your eye on the prize training pattern by Pletcher. So that's the counter argument to my perception. I think this horse, again, hits the board. I just don't see him winning, but he could easily prove me.
So Irad Ortiz riding.
Dirty Irad Ortiz is riding, so like you could get your heart broken if he crosses the line, but Irad, you know, cut off 4 horses and beat a 5th jockey to get there.
So you're the only person who's ever put a negative to it that I've heard, and that's okay. But my question, if he's not peaked, is he a celebratory for the 50th anniversary of Secretary? Is he in that same league if he's not peaked?
Nobody's in the same league.
Okay, but I understand, but be in the league.
No.
No.
And all of the speed figure measurements that we looked at, that I look at, buyer speed figures, Brisnet and Thoroughbred, This year's crop of horses is not even as fast as the last 2 or 3 years.
The last couple of years, there's been a
So-
lot decline.
What has he bred?
He's a violent out of a blame, out of a blame, you know, blame.
So he gets blamed, but Bounce has got two horses in the Derby.
Yeah, violence is unproven, as they would say, for the Derby. But his crops are they're on fire right now, the last couple of crops. And violence is by Medalla de Oro, who's a you know, pretty well-known sire. So I don't have a problem with his pedigree. Number 16, 2 things about this horse. I love Raising Cane's.
Okay.
I could eat Raising Cane's 2 or 3 times a week, which is one of the reasons I bet on him in the Gotham at 23-1 and was rewarded handsomely for that. He had an eye-catching come from behind victory in the Gotham. That was on the slop. It was only at a mile, and his odds at 50-1. He's probably where he needs to be. He doesn't have on paper and any of the measurements enough to be considered for any of the top placings. That said, I might put $20 to show on him just for, you know, blanks and giggles, just because, you know, sentimental. But other than that, no, he's kind of a pretty hard pass.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to include him at the bottom of your superfecta ticket, I won't, you know, at 50. This horse might go off as the longest shot. So, I mean, at some point there's value there, I guess.
Yeah, if it rains, which I don't think it is, but if it rains, we'll remember a little bit, I guess. The next horse, number 17, Derma Sotogake. A lot of steam around this horse. A lot of folks really like this. A lot of respected handicappers that I read and listen to on satellite radio love this horse. I am not in love with him for a couple of reasons. He had a massive win in the UAE Derby in Dubai. Tour de force performance, as they'd say, where he established a good lead and then just blew him away in the stretch. The counter argument to that is, if you go back and watch the race, the first, second, and third place finishers of that race were first, second, third the entire race. It was a merry-go-round, as they say. So that track was certainly a speed favoring track that night. He certainly benefited from that. The other kicker is that no horse from the UAE Derby has ever even hit the board, never even finished first, second, or third. So it's kind of one of those things where until somebody does it, you know, like Crown Pride last year, and he's a good horse, but he got the Derby and he was one of the reasons the pace was so fast. He and the other horse, both horses, Summer is Tomorrow, I think is that name. I think they just completely overreact, crowd, the noise, and they just went crazy, and they were crazy fast. He's a confirmed front runner, and so I think he's going to go a lot faster than he wants to go. His fractions in the UAE Derby were actually not very fast in the first quarter, first half. So he's almost a toss for me. If I play him, it'll be defensive, as you might say. Maybe throw him in a box. But I'm not going to play this horse in an exacta or across the board or anything.
Well, I'm going to be having sake infused mint juleps on Saturday.
Whoa.
Because this horse, if you look, so for when a thoroughbred debuts as a 2-year-old, they'll run 5, 6, or 7 on a high end. You know, for their debuts typically. If you look at this horse's run line back to June of 22, debuts at a mile and the eighth on the turf, does that twice, then cuts back to a mile and 16th, first time on a dirt surface or a poly, and then from there, every single race is a mile plus. And so this horse, the distance won't be a problem. It also draws on the outside at 17, which 17 actually has never had a Derby winner, so there's a double whammy between the UAE curse and the 17 hole. So
I think it's the only post that's
so
never.
two negatives is a positive. We all learned that in science, right? But this horse is going to be near the lead. I don't think he will be in the lead, but he'll be third or fourth in an outside position where he can tuck in. And he ran a monster thoroughbred figure. And the Japanese horses, the last 2 years, including this year, have been on fire. And I think this is this is my top pick along the skin.
How do you say that name again?
Derma Sotogake. That's Andrew's top pick. Not mine. All right, I'll hit these last three real quick because they're all long shots. You got Rocket Can, number 18, Lord Miles, 19, and Continuar, which is the second Japanese horse, number 20. All long shots. There's not much you can say about any of these other than to quote Rocket Man. I prefer others. Rocket Can is trained by Bill Mott, which is trainer, Hall of Famer. Some people like his training. To me, he's just kind of an also mid-pack horse. The other Japanese horse, number 20, Continuar, he's training awful. So I think they're just here for the party. I think Continuar.
They're here for the sake.
I think Continuar and Jason's Road will probably fight it out to see who finishes last.
Yeah, that's a great assessment. My only mild pushback is maybe Lord Miles for a price to close out your superfecta ticket. I'll put Lord Miles at the bottom of my superfecta at a price. Paco Lopez is a decent jockey to sort of pick up.
I think the only way I would use Lord Miles is with the all button. I would be remiss if we didn't mention the also eligibles because last year, everybody remembers Rich Strike was not in the Derby, wasn't even in the Derby until Friday morning when there was a late scratch. So these are in particular, these are the orders. So if there's a scratch, the first horse in would be Cyclone Mischief. That's Dale Roman's horse. And Dale Romans loves his horse because Dale Romans always loves his horse. He does have Rosario listed, but that's secondary. So if he gets in, he will likely have another horse because I think Rosario's riding Disarm.
Yes, correct.
The second horse, though, I would pay attention to this one. If this is the third Japanese horse, Mandarin Hero, he's proven now. He's come from overseas and he ran in the Santa Anita Derby and he almost won it. He was right there with Skinner and Practical Move. It was a blanket finish. If this horse gets in, you might want to include him.
Absolutely. I would, if this horse gets in, I'm doing a big exacta with Derma Surcafe and Mandarin Hero. Mandarin Hero, if that one or two more gallops, he gets Practical Move and still look like he had gas in the tank. I really wish Mandarin Hero was running this race. Maybe he gets in, but we'll see. If not, I'll stay tuned for the race.
These are all my notes, pros and cons of each horse. If anybody wants this, you can email me, Jason.Morgan, pretty simple. And SYB for Stockyards Bank. Jason.Morgan, SYB. If you go all the way to the end, Julie,
Do you want us just to send it out through email?
you can. We'll go back ahead. Here are my picks, and Andrew, if he wants to give you a top 4, top 5, so call this my super high 5. I think Tappet Trice is the most talented horse in the field. He's got to have the work to do. Practical Move, I think, is probably in Forte, the next 2 best. I got Mage and Angel Empire. Those are the 5 that I will, box and exactas, box and trifectas. Probably bet Mage across the board. Practical move, I will probably do, one of my pet bets is an exacta with all. So if you really like a horse and you're trying to get a decent price, you know, if you say I like practical move and I bet him $1 exacta wheel with all, and then flip it around and do all over him. That means I'm guaranteeing myself the exacta if he runs first or second. And we've seen last year, I think it was about $2,000, the $2 exacta. No, the $1 exacta. The $1 exacta last year with Epicenter, the favorite in second, but the crazy long shot winning. It was a $2,000 exacta. So that's a defensive way to bet a horse that you like, say in an exacta. And if you use the all button and something crazy happens, then you might get it. So I think the Oaks is gonna be a little chalky. Wet paint and Botanical, I think are the top two choices. I really like both of those horses. You'll get some value with Botanical, and you'll get more value with Pretty Mischievous. The only drawback there is she got the 14 outside, but anyway, those are my Oaks picks. You got anything to wrap up?
I'd say I really like, we're identical, I think, on 3, 4, and 5 for the Derby. My top two in 1A, I like Dermaso, Agate, and Skinner is sort of my 1A. I don't know if I just want to head the other where I'm sitting. Forte Mage and Angel Empire. I love those to round out the top 5.
Well done. Thank you. A couple of questions today.
Does anybody move up or down if it's a wet track, in your opinion, or would that
Yes.
alter your bets?
Yes, Confidence Game moves way up. As to a contender status. Race Cane moves up to maybe someone who could complete a super high five. I haven't looked at the latest, but I don't think it's gonna rain. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Then if you want to get in to the Derby contest again, you're just picking 3 horses. And if those horses finish first, second, or third, you're gonna get what it pays. And like you bet $2 a cross. Give it to Mark. Thank you all.
Hey, so
All right.
what about the jockey for the mayor?
I mean, he's. In my opinion.
You put the name up there, I mean, not the name, but the whole thing.
What do you want?
All right, take this now. Wait a minute. 17. Okay. All right, everybody. I know Jason's gonna be willing to take lots more questions. Let's call the ticket here and then make sure somebody gets paid, maybe at least a pizza. All right, so 4211, last 4211. Yeah. Tom Cox again. All right, Blaine, would you be willing to take? While he's spinning, guys. It will be a struggle. Thank you. Oh.
Oh, there you go.
What's up?
The last time I got a big card here, they expired.
Oh.
I got one. Tom.
Kind of fun. Let's go start something.
Feed the whole office, keep this up. I know it.